You'll hear the term STEM mentioned a lot these days and talk about education. It stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Experts say doing those subjects better and with more students is key to the long-term success and the whole country's economic competitiveness. A Florida Today documentary team led by education reporter Mackenzie Ryan explored what's happening here in Brevard. Today, we share their special report on how Space Coast students are reaching for the stars.
A gym teacher and coach at West Shore Junior Senior High School in Melbourne, Florida, Jason Whitworth was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis in 2011.
I was really ready to tell my parents that I had something like Parkinson's or MS or something, but I wasn't prepared for ALS.
ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, slowly paralyzes and kills. The diagnosis rattled this tight-knit school. Students and teacher Amy McCormick wanted to help, and they designed a science experiment to research ALS in the microgravity of space.
When Coach Whitworth got sick, it impacted everybody. So to continue research to help one of our own. Or are there people that have to suffer from such a disease?
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Ryan, the education reporter at Florida Today, and I want to introduce you to three groups of high school students who are working on ambitious projects. Here on Florida's Space Coast, with Kennedy Space Center in the backyard, these students are partnering with NASA and other space professionals and are truly reaching for the stars. An ALS experiment to be performed with the help of astronauts on the International Space Station, launching a small satellite known as a CubeSat into space, and designing and building a robot for a well-known competition, First Robotics. The projects are outside of the classroom and on students' own time, but teachers say they provide a critical element in education, building a bridge between student coursework and real-world problems. Students learn firsthand how STEM fields, that science, technology, engineering, and math, might translate into a career.
Many times we think, why do I need this? Why do I need to learn algebra or calculus or science or physics? I'm never going to use that, but you actually are. It also pushes me to try to find the ways to show them how what they are learning today applies to our daily work. It's things that we use on a daily basis. Only one or two of the students had ever had any programming experience or a basic introductory class, and now there are a level of programming in the C language that's almost at my level, and they correct my mistakes, they help me find bugs, they help me debug the code to get it to where we are now.
It's just amazing to me that the kids today are just exposed to so much, and that they are availing themselves of the opportunity. I mean, what they're learning is just incredible in the classroom too, but outside in these clubs, the robotics club, the satellite club, there's so much for them to soak up and then figure out what they want to do when they grow up.
The projects are not easy. They test students' knowledge, skills, and perseverance to apply what they learn in and out of the classroom, to discover their own abilities, talents, and goals, to see the future and promise that science and technology hold. At times, the projects are personal. At West Shore, students want to raise awareness for a beloved coach. When Whitworth was diagnosed, few people at the school seemed to know about the disease.
Doctors may not know what causes it, but we're on track right now to find something.
But this fall, it gained worldwide attention with the popular Ice Bucket Challenge on Facebook.
For me, it's about really a lot of support for Coach Whitworth. I've known him since I was maybe 4 years old. I had him as a gym teacher, and I've known him ever since, and we've been really close with their family for a long time.
Students went to work on the experiment, eventually beating out more than 1,200 proposals from across the United States and Canada to win funding from the Teachers in Space program. They were one of only 17 student projects to win a research spot on the International Space Station.
It's remarkable that a bunch of high school kids actually got a project sent up to the International Space Station.
The students did everything from investigating what we were actually going to test in the first place, to packing the experiments, you know, when we shipped them off to Houston in the first place, and then eventually they got shipped up to Virginia. But they will do all of the analysis when it comes back as well and run all the data.
Scientific discoveries are built slowly. Individual bricks, when taken together, build a path of understanding. There is no known cure for ALS, and students were not aiming for one, but they did want to advance understanding. Right now, ALS patients are typically given only 3 to 5 years to live.
As a mother, you know, you teach your children how to live, but you never think that you're going to have to teach your child how to die. And through this process, it's been such an experience, but at the same time, you know, in carrying on for him, it gives me a reason to carry on.
I believe that the cure for ALS it's either going to be a kid that comes up with the cure, the person is now a kid, or yet to be born. I hope I'm wrong about that for my own longevity. I would like to think that they would come up with a cure within the next year or two. I could benefit from that. If the person that comes up with the cure is not born yet, obviously that's not going to help me, but it will help future generations, and we're all for that. Thank you for everything.
Projects like these take hours of research, and Merritt Island High students spent months preparing for a critical presentation to a team of NASA engineers and scientists. It's a required step in moving forward and launching a small satellite. StayingSat, named after the school's mascot, the Mustangs, will measure the shock and vibrations of the rocket during launch. It will transmit data to a sister satellite being built by students at California Polytechnic State University.
If you get that excitement into a classroom, and that's my goal every day. I don't succeed at it, but hopefully spark their interest a little bit as a minimum.
But first, students must pass the critical design review. The hours-long meeting is designed to expose holes in the students' plan and analysis. Much is at stake. If students win approval, the school could become one of only 2 high schools in the nation to launch a small satellite into space. And if they do not pass, they'll go back to the drawing board, or at worst, the program could end.
I'm feeling really nervous. I have a lot of chills. I'm really scared. I don't like public speaking at all.
With projects as ambitious as these, there's always a chance it won't be as successful as hoped. And that's why the prototyping and design is so important for the Pink Team, a group of students who build robots for competition. The team includes students at Cocoa Beach Junior-Senior High School and Rockledge, Space Coast, and Vera High Schools. FIRST Robotics is a complex game of technology, strategy, and teamwork.
The challenge is that robots have to play kind of like human sports. So it's cool in the sense that, you know, it's a sport, but then it's even cooler in the sense that you have to make machines do it. It's a different level than just the human body go out there on the field and play. The more you pass, the more you score. So you have to be able to make a machine that can both score and pass and do it efficiently.
When we come out to NASA, what we do is we work with our hands, figure out problems, we fix things. When we get to take ideas and turn them into like a reality, and that's just really cool, and I like to do that.
Unlike many classrooms, students are encouraged to propose ideas that may not work out.
We prototype, we come up with ideas, The kids throw ideas out, we shoot them down, we try and make something work, and eventually we start to design.
Some students struggle with the risk of failing and being wrong in front of their peers.
I felt scared. I didn't really understand, and I was really afraid of, saying something and ending up being really stupid or not work and be, I didn't want it to be my fault for losing. So I think up to that point it was scary, but after that point I thought about it and I was like, everything's gonna get reevaluated. We're gonna prototype it. We're gonna check if that works, and if not, then we're not gonna use it. But that gave me the confidence to kind of throw my ideas out there and everybody's ideas out there.
Working in the space industry can bring unique challenges, ones that students experienced firsthand. The rocket carrying West Shore's ALS experiment flew to the International Space Station in January of 2014. After months of delays, there had been starts and stops, but that didn't stop the celebration after liftoff.
We have ignition.
It's been pushed back so many times for us, and we're just happy that it finally has made it into space, and we're just ready to see what happens. Hopefully we'll be able to find that the gelatin will be able to be broken down easier in the zero gravity in space.
And just knowing that something we touched actually is in space is just, it's mind-boggling.
Patients with ALS stop breaking down glutamate, which builds up to toxic levels. That causes neurons to die and patients to lose control of their muscles. In the experiment, students modeled healthy glutamate breakdown. They used papaya extract, which represents the enzyme, and gelatin, which represents the glutamate. They wondered, would the cellular breakdown occur more quickly here or in space?
So pretty much we are going to be unclamping this. It's the papain today, and this is also the gelatin, and this is going to be starting the reaction. So the papain is going to start breaking down the gelatin, and then in 3 days we are going to be unclamping the ascorbic acid, which will stop the reaction.
Astronauts started and stopped the reaction on the ISS, and in Melbourne, students followed suit. It was a special moment. After so many twists and turns, it was actually happening, and returning to West Shore for the occasion was Jason Whitworth and his family.
It means the world to the kids to have Jason here on campus and to get to see him again. We can never see him often enough, especially the kids that used to get to see him every day for an hour every day, and he would just fill them with such positivity and such good, just good feelings and good vibes, and we miss that. We all miss that.
At this point, it's difficult for Jason to go out into the community. It takes more time and more effort because of how far the disease has progressed. But he and his family wanted to take part in the celebration and connect with the students who were making it happen. The experiment, Project Whitworth, was named and executed in his honor. Then, by way of Russian spacecraft and overnight mail, the experiment returned to West Shore a few weeks later. In a biology lab, students unwrapped the vial carefully.
It was exciting because as a high school student, you don't generally hear about people sending things to space. It's not an everyday thing, and that's something that is a very rare opportunity. And we sent something into space, and we had an experiment run in space, and that's just, wow.
With high-stakes presentations come last-minute preparations. At Kennedy Space Center, Merritt Island High students gathered in a corner conference room, ready to start their critical design review. They've been working for months to get to this point, through the summer and through winter break, between homework assignments and college applications.
Okay, so we are trying to pull the meeting up on one of the students' laptops. No, it was for about 15 years. And so
they'll discuss how a test flight went and risks associated to their mission. They've been practicing, and NASA mentors are there to help. But still, there are nerves and butterflies. Students take turns presenting, and as student project manager, Brian Robusto is up first.
So this was just a reminder for me in case I got stuck. Since this is the beginning of the presentation, I wasn't sure how I'd react to all those people, so I wanted to make sure that I clearly stated why we were there and what the purpose of our presentation was. I don't think I needed them as much as I thought I would, but it was just good to have because there were moments where I froze. I just quickly reference them, because you don't want to be looking at your presentation a lot, because then that becomes unprofessional and then you can't really clearly be heard, especially since we had to talk on the telephone.
It's a professional project, and NASA leaders treat it that way. They don't hold back. They ask students questions professional engineers would need to know to pass this step. At one point, they ask about a glue that holds the parts down so they don't break apart during the launch.
It took me a minute to catch up to what they were saying, because they're actual engineers, and once I finally caught up, I realized what they were asking, and I knew the answer, and I told them, and they're like, "Oh, okay, that's what we wanted to know," and that was a pretty proud moment. I'd say it's one of the hardest public speaking I've had to do. They were asking some questions that I hadn't thought about, so I was trying to think on the fly.
Holding your own in such a high-pressure situation strengthens a student. It builds their confidence in ways a classroom project never could.
When an engineer that works in this every day, that went to college for this, asks you a question that you wouldn't normally know, and you know it and you figure it out, it just feels good.
It's a lot of times even it's rare for a university to have this experience, and so to be getting it at the high school level is just incredible. To be working so close to NASA, to have that mentorship and the facilities that's available to them is just, it's indescribable how wonderful it is.
For each project, there comes a moment of truth, when all the hours spent researching, designing, and building come to a head. At Kennedy Space Center, the Pink Team gathers to test their design. They've prototyped and modeled, but now it's time to see if it works.
It's 3, 2, 1.
During a competition in Orlando, the Pink Team seems unstoppable. They designed their robot with strategy in mind, with an arm that could pick up a ball 2 different ways. They sailed through, winning the first 12 rounds. But in the game, teams work together as alliances. And in the last rounds, it adds another level of strategy and what organizers call gracious professionalism, the ability to work well with others. But just as teams can hold each other up, they can also hold each other back. And when an alliance is disqualified, so is the Pink Team.
Sure, we didn't achieve what we wanted to get, what we planned for, but I mean, that happens all the time, and knowing that, we can grow from this point is very important. And some of the successes that we had was that we got to know each other better, and we got to learn, and for the best part for me was knowing that, if we got a loss, we're only going to become stronger. If we're down, we're only going to go up after this point.
Student projects can sometimes lead in surprising directions.
3 years ago, I was working a football game, and one of the officers from Rockledge said, "Can your kids design a robot that'll take a throw phone that we can drive to a bad guy and dump the phone off and then come back so our officers aren't in the way?"
It's moments like these where students make connections between science and engineering and life outside of the classroom.
And we ended up building a robot for them that we donated to Rockledge Police Department with the kids doing the design work, doing the electrical, and now we're selling one to Coco for their police department, and we're also donating a few other ones within the state of Florida. So it's real life knowledge, not even just robot playtime.
Projects have their ups and downs. With so many delays, some West Shore students graduate before the experiment is done, but they return to present their results to the man who first inspired the project, Jason Whitworth, and others with ALS.
The lower the absorbance level, the better it is. That means that there was more of it broken down. So as you see in space, there was a whole lot more broken down than there was on Earth.
Their findings are significant.
It was 40% more efficient in space, which is huge. That's amazing. And this actually supported our hypothesis that the enzymatic breakdown of proteins would be faster in space.
Their results, hopeful.
Right now we're researching about why that would be. One of our hypotheses on that is that maybe due to the microgravity, the enzymes could float around better, and the absence of gravity would allow them to bind to more substrate. That's something that we're looking into even more, and this experiment definitely helps prove that that may be correct.
Their project, personal.
We wanted to all jump in on a project that, was more than just finding out, numbers, something that we could put a face to and a community to. And that's why we really wanted to, be a part of this project in order to, do our part and help out the cause.
At Kennedy Space Center, Merritt Island High students wait to see how they did and whether they'll get the approval they need to build the STANGSAT.
So we had been so tense because we weren't, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what question was coming next.
Garrett Scrobot is a mission manager with the Launch Services Program at KSC, and he's also the project manager that's overseeing the educational launch of nanosatellites like the STANGSAT. He chaired the review board. He was there to listen, to ask questions, to ensure the project was on the right track. And then the decision. There are things to address, but Scrobot said the STANGSAT may proceed.
It was evident that during the CDR he was treating us like real engineers, but then afterwards he told us how he really felt about the presentation, and he told us that we did a great job, and the rest of the board said that we did a great job too, so that was really encouraging.
And that means moving to the next phase, constructing the satellite that will launch into space. Students recently received word that the satellite may launch on a SpaceX rocket during the 2015-16 school year. If another CubeSat is not ready to fly, they'll take its spot on the rocket. And with the deadline approaching, that means continuing work at NASA, so they'll be ready.
So before our satellite goes onto a rocket, we have to do a series of tests to make sure that while it's on the rocket, it's not going to disintegrate or fall apart or whatnot. So we have to have a plan of action for these tests so we can prove that we are ready for that rocket, and that won't be a waste of money for NASA.
They practiced, they worked hard to create the presentation, they persevered through all the delays and all the time crunches, and through all their other activities and the homework to come up with this. We left school early today, they've stayed late tonight, and they still have a ton of homework to do. I just can't describe how proud I am of how well they have done.
As students persevered through setbacks and delays, they discovered what science and engineering could mean to them, what careers in medical research or satellites or robotics would look like.
For them to get the STEM now, that's another thing that gives me hope for the future. The cell phones that we use, the televisions and computers we use in the future, these are the kids that are going to be designing it.
They've developed their interests.
I'm planning on going to engineering now after my 3 years on the team.
I'm hoping to stay to be an environmental engineer.
But more importantly, they've learned how to reach for and achieve their goals.
I really want to incorporate some of that experiences that I learned and skills and incorporate that into my long-term future, and so I decided to go into biomedical engineering as a result. I think knowing that STEM is going to it plays a huge role in our world today, and it's going to play even a bigger role in the future. I think that more, especially young kids, should get involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, because it's something that we're going to need. Everybody's going to have some partake role in it, and so it's really important that young people get interested, especially if we, as a country and as a world, we want to improve the conditions that we have today.
The major successes we had was obviously we won the Excellence in Engineering Award, which is a big deal for us because engineering is a big part of building the robot. And I felt like through the adversity we faced in Orlando, we grew closer as a team as well. Next year we'll obviously have to be that much better and just make sure our robot is working perfectly and not have some of the flaws we had this year where maybe we forgot to charge the battery one match, or we switched the motors out and they didn't work exactly the same. So maybe a little more attention to detail.
Through the ups and downs, the scheduling setbacks and design hurdles, students have persevered. They've tested their abilities and talents. They've expanded their knowledge and their experiences. And they've seen the promise that science and technology fields hold.
It's exciting to see the seeds being planted, and that you do that with a teacher, but to see it now in such
display is incredible.
And now it's time to pursue their next goals. Many are selecting STEM majors and careers and a future inspired by their projects.
My dream is one day to be able to, for anything, whether it be ALS or some other kind of disease, maybe cancer, helping research for fatal diseases and fatal conditions. I believe that that will bring smiles to family members, even if they know that the research is going on. Even if there's no cure right now, just knowing that someone is trying something to help them. I believe that that really helps them out and helps take a lot of burden off their shoulders. And that's kind of what I want to go into. I want to help those people.
A future brightened by their success.
I did a campus visit and they said, if you continue your ALS research, then we will have a job opportunity at the Mayo Clinic for you. So I'm still in shock that I have the opportunity to do something like that. I'm going to try and continue the research. That's what I really would like to do.
A future of hope.
I expect, great things from these young people. I really do. Because y'all you have the brains, but you also have the heart. And that's going to take you a long way, believe me.